Hi, and welcome to Volume 3 of Sehnsucht with the Zeneri team. I'm excited that you came today, and I hope you are so excited to meet another cool mystery guest. As you know, we're doing a weekly video and interviewing some people from the travel industry who have really inspired me to enjoy travels, to sell travel, who've really brought a lot of energy to our team, who've supported us in our efforts, but more importantly, who love travel themselves and are definitely passionate about it. So just to remind you, Sehnsucht is our new weekly broadcast, and we're coming to you live once a week, bringing on a mystery guest, having conversations. We're hoping to inspire that wistful longing and yearning in the heart for travels past and future for you and all of your friends and family. So feel free to spread our videos around, and I hope you enjoy. I'd like to introduce you today to my mystery guest. Drum roll, please. This is Theresa Scalzitti, and Theresa comes to us from Florida today. I'm sure it's about as hot there as it is here. Maybe
Hi.
worse. How are you today,
Hi.
Theresa?
Oh, I'm doing great. How are you? Thanks for having me on. This is fun.
I'm so excited you got to come, and I can't wait to hear all about you and your life and your fun travels. I've
Well,
watched
I
you.
hope, I hope it's interesting.
I've watched you over the years. I've known you, I guess, about 3 or 4 years, maybe 5. Have you been with Cruise Planners as long as me? I don't
So
remember.
I joined Cruise Planners it was 5 years this February, so I'm here almost 6 years.
Oh, cool, cool. So right about the same time we came on board. Awesome. That's
Yes,
cool.
exactly.
Well, tell us a little bit about where you are today, where you come to us
Mhm.
from, and a little bit about yourself so we can get to know you better.
Sure. So I'm in Coral Springs, Florida at the moment. I'm a born and raised Florida native. There's not many of us, but I am one of the only ones left. But I love how, our town is a melting pot of so many different people from all over the country, all over the world. So that's what makes it so special. I've been in the travel industry for 26 years. And I started out working with Royal Caribbean International and Celebrity Cruises. So lots to talk about there, but I'll leave it with that.
Yeah.
And I'm currently at Cruise Planners, the Chief Sales Officer, and love it, love it, love it here.
That's fantastic. How long were you with Royal Caribbean and Celebrity?
I was there for 21 years. I held
Oh,
many
wow.
different positions. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So pretty much right out of college, it's all about who you know, right? So I knew somebody who knew somebody. I'd always wanted to go into the hospitality industry, always attracted me. When I was in college, I actually thought I was going to go more so on the hotel side of things. I think my dream was to manage the Waldorf Astoria in New York City. That was kind of
That's
my
awesome.
my aspiration.
Yeah.
And then as I was in college and I started really thinking about it more, I thought, hotels, nights, weekends, holidays, maybe that's not what I want to do. I want to have a family and I don't want to, be working nights, weekends, holidays all the time.
Yeah.
So I kind of changed and, cruising is right in my backyard here in South Florida. And I just thought, gosh, how cool would it be to work for a cruise line? And so, as I said, I knew somebody who knew somebody inside Royal Caribbean, and they helped get my resume to the top of a pile. And I got my foot in the door there, and it was fantastic. So, kind of started out in the passenger services side, quality assurance, kind of auditing phone calls. Nothing really exciting, very boring, but it did give me a really good background on kind of how the reservation side works and groups and all of that. And then after a year, which is when you can apply out, on that date, I applied out and I went into the shipboard operations area for all of the onboard revenue centers, which was a fantastic job.
That sounds very interesting. So clearly you've had a passion for travel for a very long time. So
Yes, it did.
tell us a little bit more about what ignites that passion. Obviously you enjoy your job at Cruise Planners because,
Mhm.
well, All of us do. But tell us what ignites your passion for travel.
You know, honestly, for me, it's about exploring new places. It's about meeting new people and learning about their culture and trying their different foods and their drinks and just opening your mind to something that is way beyond what you might experience in your own hometown. You know, I think when you travel, it really tells you that the world is small. Like you think the world is huge, but the world's really small. And you have more in common with a lot of other people in other countries than I think you realize. And then you have some that are just so completely different, and it gives you great perspective. It makes you feel very grateful for the things that you have, especially living in America. I think, you know, that's one of the things I do feel really grateful about is just, you know, our freedom and the different things that we have available to us. So I think it just really helps somebody learn about everything, different people, cultures, food. And so that to me is exciting. That's what I call adventure. It doesn't mean that I have to go skydiving to be adventurous, although I did.
Yeah.
But to me, adventure is about experiencing new things.
So it sounds like, Theresa, you really had a lot of immersive experiences. What do you think your most favorite immersion experience was when you were traveling, be it in the United States or overseas?
Mm-hmm. So I've had many. What I like to do is when we go into a Caribbean island or a new place that I'm visiting internationally, if I've already seen the sites, you know, that you are kind of must sees, and we're going back or we have extra time, depending on how many days we're there, I love to find a driver, and obviously, you know, a reputable driver. Use your travel advisor; they can help you with that. And I say to them, take us take us somewhere else, take us where you would go. You know, what would you show family that's coming in to visit, or where would you go eat? Take us out of the tourist area. One of the most favorite one was in Jamaica. You know, we did go to Fern Gully. We went through the forest and, you know, the rainforest, and it was very beautiful. But for lunch, he took us to this hut. I'm going to call it a hut. It literally was a hut. Obviously not in a touristy area at all. Went up to the little counter, ordered. He even ordered for us because we had no idea what to order. He ordered us a bunch of food. I think 10 of us ate for maybe $10, but we had so much food we couldn't even finish it, and it was so yummy. But it was a fun experience, and it really kind of stuck with me that I think you should do that. You should learn more about, you don't want to learn about what they want you to see as a tourist. You know, go off the beaten path and try to find other areas that are more native and more, you know, central to what everyday life would be there.
I think that's great advice. I think that's a good way to get to know not only the surroundings of where you are, but the people and the communities. And I think it really brings, you know, a personality to the areas. That's one of the things that I love most about traveling. So that's really interesting. So speaking of that, if you were offered a free vacation, if you could go one place that you haven't been or you've already been, where do you think you would go?
Oh, my list is so long, so long, so long. So I guess if I was traveling with my family, I would love, one of my bucket list items is to do an African safari. You know, I've heard so much that it's just life-changing, that it's just an amazing experience. My children are, I have twin 14-year-olds and a 12-year-old. So I think they're old enough now that they could go and not scream at the animals or do something that might get us attacked. So I think that would definitely be number one on my bucket list. I've always wanted to go to Australia, New Zealand as well. So that's a place I would love to go. And, but the list is very, very long. So those are my top two.
I would expect no less with your passion. Yeah. Are you looking forward to our upcoming webinar about about Africa and all the places that we can go?
I really am. Yes. And it's just amazing. I mean, even just looking at pictures and video, it's, well, you just want to put yourself there. And there's so many different types of experiences that you can do. I've heard of the glamping, where you can actually camp, you know, outside, obviously in a tent that has nice amenities. Yes. But just, can you imagine just having it be dark at night, dark, because there's no lights, right? complete silence and then hearing these animals out there. You know, I think it's
Yeah.
scary, but exciting. And knowing that there's someone out there to protect you in case something happens. But
Yeah.
to me, that's just really is exciting.
Yeah. You know, you mentioned that fear. I have a lot of friends who are afraid to travel and see new places. And that's
Mhm.
something I've really tried to do in my business is educate people. And,
Mhm.
you know, one of the things that I love most about you when I get to hang out with you and listen to all the webinars you do for our company or the inspirations that you give us is you're very positive and you make me feel very comfortable about, you know, trying new things and reaching out to new people. How do you stay so positive, especially when our travel industry has been a little bit in array over the past couple of
Yeah.
years?
You know, it's been this past, 15, 16 months have been hard. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel for every one of you that are out there as travel advisors. It's been really tough. I think I'm just a naturally positive person. I think you do have to also sometimes when you're dealt bad situations, you also have to kind of make a conscious choice to say, you know what, I'm going to look at the good in every situation. I'm going to look at the positive side of it because I think it could always be worse, right? No matter what situation you're in, it could always be worse. So you have to remind yourself of that. Even though that sounds negative, I think it's the way to stay positive and look at the bright side. And I think when you're in something in the last 15 months, it's just take one day at a time. That's all you can do is, I'm going to get through today. It's going to get better. I know it's going to get better. And eventually it does.
That's a very good attitude. I love that. So, did you run out of toilet paper? The
No,
question
but I
I
was
gotta ask.
super, super scared that I was. So I have a funny story if I could
Oh,
share my
good.
toilet paper
Sure.
story. So I went online because everybody was in that frenzy to get toilet paper. So I'm like, I'm going to be smarter than everybody else. I'm going to go online and order my toilet paper. I knew I had enough to last me a good maybe month. So I thought, even if it takes a month to get it, I'll be fine. So I go online and I guess the picture wasn't really exactly what I was getting. I ordered about 8 of these rolls and they were super expensive and I couldn't figure out why, but I just thought because they were gouging and everybody was charging so much for toilet paper. Well, when I came, those huge toilet paper, they're not toilet paper, those 2 paper towel rolls that like if in a public bathroom and it's on the roll and you pull it out, that's what I got. I got boxes and boxes of these paper towels. You could not use them as toilet paper.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
so my husband's like, do you think I have an elephant's butt? Like, what is this? So we laughed. So then I went on and ordered more. This is the other side of it. I ordered more. So I'm like, well, I'm not going to make that mistake again. So now I get a whole order of toilet paper. That's these little tiny rolls
Oh my gosh.
that might be maybe if you're camping and you need to bring some toilet paper. So it was very
Oh
funny. My husband was
no.
like, first you buy the huge ones, then you buy the little ones. But
Oh
hey, we
geez.
didn't run out. That was the key.
That's the key. Did you send all that back or did you end up keeping it for the special
No, we just ended
occasion?
up using them as paper towels. So I'm like, okay, well, we'll use it.
Ultra resourceful. Nice.
Again, you got to look at the bright side. Well, we've got plenty of paper towels.
Absolutely. That's hysterical. I didn't have any craziness like that, but luckily we did not run out of toilet paper. I
That's
stocked
good.
up on those really long boxes of Kleenexes too, though, just in
Oh,
case.
good idea. Just in
They're all
case.
still in the closet because no one wants those big things on their desk anymore.
Right, right.
So that's the way that goes, right? Well, you know, one of the things that always interests me to hear that I have to ask you, that I've asked everybody on these interviews, and it's always been such interesting answers. So, and this was actually inspired by my dad, who I co-own this business with,
Mhm.
because he loves history so much. And when he travels, one of the things he always does is look for like immersive history experiences.
Mhm.
And so I was asking him when we were planning this, he's pretty soon in March, he's going overseas for a European cruise with you. Hopefully you're on it. And then he is also going to take a couple of trips and do some before and after in Europe. So one of the
Nice.
things that he loves is history. So
Mhm.
I asked him, You know, if you could take somebody with you on that cruise, on that vacation, and just sit and chat, a historical figure who maybe isn't alive anymore or maybe still is, who would it be? So I have to ask you, if
Mm,
you could think of a historical figure that you could take a week's trip with and just sit down
yeah.
and have a conversation, who do you think you'd ask?
Oh, I honestly don't know. Give me a second. So I don't know. I mean, there's so many people I love and respect, but
Yeah.
and I know this might sound a little cliche, but I think I would love, it's not a historical figure, but it's somebody who's very near and dear to me, and that would probably be my
Mm.
grandfather. So again, he was in the war, and he just had such a robust history, and I don't think that when I was young, I don't think I appreciated it as
Yeah.
much as I do
Yeah.
now. And so I would give anything for that time to go back and ask him questions about his life and his history and what it was like growing up during the Depression and what it was like growing up, and being in, the wars that he
Yeah.
was in. So I think that's who I would want to spend my week with.
That's fascinating. I love that. I love that.
Mhm.
And is he still alive?
No, he unfortunately passed. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah. So you'd like to go grab him and have a chat. That sounds
Yes,
really interesting.
exactly. I would say, to give
Yeah, I
advice
agree
to
with
people
that.
who do still have those people in their lives is, really sit down and ask them those questions, because I think so many times we're so busy and as we're growing up and we're kids, we don't think about that. But as you get older, you're like, wow, I really wish I would have taken the time to
I
have
agree with
those
you.
conversations. Hmm.
I agree with you. I think over the years, I do have one grandfather and one grandmother who are still alive, and I kind of get they're in their 90s, and I get that feeling every time I get with them because they live about 9 to 10 hours driving away,
Oh,
so I don't see them that
yeah,
often. But
yeah,
when I do sit down with them, that's one of the first things I do is just kind of get their brains going and
yeah,
just get them communicating a little bit. So, and I've
sure.
taken lots of notes, and my girls are bored to death, but I know one day they'll
Mhm.
appreciate that too. I know what you mean. It
Yeah,
kind of increases as you get a little bit older and you learn to respect it.
yeah. Well, can I turn the tables and ask you that same question? Who would
Well,
you
sure.
who would you want to be with?
You know, I would think that on the way to see this person, I'd probably pick my mother up and take her with me. Because, as you know, I miss her dearly. But I
Yes.
think that one of the people who always fascinated me, who did so much in their life prior to a very early passing, was John F. Kennedy Jr.
Mhm.
He seemed like such a humble man, but he had such a rich family history.
Yes,
And,
100%.
he was brought up in wealth, but yet he always
Mhm.
came across everything I've seen of him in the past seems so very humble to me.
Yeah.
And, he had a
Well, and
finger
he's
on the,
not bad to look at either.
there's that. There's that. But he really seemed to have his finger on the pulse of equality and
Mhm.
humanity during a time that no one really seemed to understand, or
Yeah.
that there weren't the movements that there are today. And
Mhm.
so I think he would probably be somebody that really fascinated me. But
Yeah,
like I said,
that's
I'd grab
interesting.
my mother on the way because
She
because I
would
miss
wanna
her
see him
too.
too, right.
Yeah, she'd love to hear it too.
Yes.
But he's somebody that I think about, and I love to hear his old speeches.
Mhm.
He seemed like a person of quality and dignity and a lot of humbleness in a
Yeah,
world where
I
he was
agree.
brought up
Yeah.
with money. So
Right.
it's pretty
Exactly.
interesting. I never thought
Yeah.
of it myself till you asked me. But so tell me, to kind of turn the table back around a little bit. Um, Say, for example, you could take your grandfather on a vacation. Where do you think that he would like to go? I do a lot, and I ask you this from the perspective of multi-generational travel. That's something that I do a lot of, and I'm always
Mhm.
trying to find great trips for clients and friends who have, a lot like I live today with my dad and my kids and my
Mhm.
brothers. Where's
Yeah.
someplace that if you could grab your grandfather up, where would you take him that would be
Oh,
so
I think
interesting
he
to
would
you?
love to go to Alaska. They didn't travel a lot because they just didn't have
Oh,
the money to do it.
yeah,
So I would take him to Alaska. He would love the scenery and the fly fishing and the halibut fishing and the salmon and the bears, and oh, he would just be in love with Alaska. So that would
Oh,
be
that's
my,
really interesting.
yeah.
I'm looking forward. I leave on the 29th to go up to Alaska, so I'm looking
Oh,
forward to
great.
that. It'll be my
And you've
first
been,
time.
oh, your first time?
Yeah.
Ooh, I hope you have a lot of excursions planned. I could tell you all about it. I've been to Alaska more times than I can count. And
Oh,
every time I
really?
go, yeah, at one of my roles at Royal Caribbean and Celebrity was the cruise tour marketing manager. So Europe and
Yes.
Alaska cruise tours, which are land tours that you can combine with your cruise.
Yes.
So took a lot of advisors on fam trips around Alaska and Europe. So every time you go to Alaska, it's different. You know, you never get bored of it. It's just insanely beautiful.
Well, I'm hoping that's true because I go this summer and I go next summer. So
I love it. There's so much to do.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I was lucky enough to see the Northern Lights, which is really rare and great, you know, depending on what time
Wow.
of the year you're there. So I was very lucky to see that.
When were you there to see that out of curiosity?
That was in September. Mhm.
Awesome. Awesome. I'm
Was
going,
at towards the end of the season.
I go this August and then I'm actually escorting a cruise tour with Princess next summer. I have a
Okay.
pretty big group going, so I'm really looking forward to both
Oh,
those.
yes.
Maybe I'll get lucky with those Northern Lights.
Yes. I hope so. I hope so. And they have really cool. So if you're staying, you said you're doing a cruise tour.
Yes.
So the resort or the hotels that you'll be staying at, they actually have something cool where you can call ahead to the front desk and say that you want a Northern Lights wake up call. So that if you're sleeping
So I don't
and
miss
there's
it.
Northern Lights out, they will call you and let you know that the Northern Lights are there.
Oh, 100%. I'll be all over that. I'll probably be outside looking too at that
Mhm.
point. Not only wake me up, but meet me outside. So
Yes. Oh,
that sounds really neat. That's fast. That would be fascinating to see. And I'm also looking forward to Seattle because I'm going to spend some time this summer in Seattle and Oregon. I'm going down the coast.
oh, beautiful. It's a
So
beautiful part of the country. Yes.
never been. So I'm really looking forward to that a whole lot.
Lots to do in Seattle. We had a lot of fun. So we brought my family there, my kids. We went about 3 years ago. And oh, if you ask them to this day what their favorite trip was, they'll say Alaska.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So one thing I know about you, and I thought about you actually while I was planning this trip, is that you like to take trains.
Yes.
When I planned my trip to Seattle, I have several days. I wanted to go down into Oregon. I seriously thought about taking a train, but my friend that's going with me said, let's get a convertible if we're going to the coast. So I said,
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
But so
Mhm.
tell me, where's the best train trip you've ever taken?
Well, I've never really done a complete train trip. It's been more like transportation, getting here and
Mm-hmm.
there. But I just think in some places that you're visiting, it's just part of the experience, right? So in Alaska, the glass dome rail cars, you know, and going through these, you know, you have the coast on one side, the mountains on another side. You know, you're going by little tiny towns, and you might get lucky and see a moose or something on the side or a whale if you look out to the water. It's just part of that experience. The
Wow.
other really fun train trip that I took was I did the channel between London and Paris, which is the
Oh,
train that goes
wow.
under the English Channel. That was incredibly cool. Incredibly cool.
That's
And you don't see
cool.
anything. It's very dark. Like you open, you're like thinking you're going to see something. You don't. But just
Yeah.
knowing that you're below the water going between two major cities was a really cool experience.
Oh, wow. I don't know if I could physically do that. We got in the tunnel going from, to Manhattan, and I was like, get me out.
Mhm.
So maybe
Yeah,
I'll have to try that sometime, challenge myself. That sounds
yeah, and
interesting.
it's quick. I forget it's only a couple hours, but it's
Yeah,
if you don't, yeah, don't think about it too much.
don't think about it. Have you ever done any train touring at all when you were in Europe?
So no, well, I did, sort of. So again, when I was back in the cruise tour division, so we had train trips that would start, let's say, in Madrid. So you'd fly into
Mm-hmm.
Madrid, then you would take a train over to uh, um, Toledo, and we would go to Barcelona. So every portion of the way, you would stay a few nights in each of these different places,
Oh,
and you would
wow.
take a train there. And it's again, it's part of that experience. It's going into these train stations and seeing all these different train tracks and lines and not knowing where you're supposed to go. It's a good reason to have a guided tour because I didn't have to think
Yeah,
about it. Somebody just told me where to go, which was great. But it was definitely a cool part of the experience.
that sounds fascinating. That sounds
Mhm.
fascinating. I've always wanted to take one of those in Europe and just see the sights and let somebody else drive. So,
Yes, exactly. It's so easy. It's honestly
yeah,
really easy to do. Go to stay in a few days in one place, stay a few days in another place.
yeah. So when you travel, what's something that you pick up that brings back fuel for living in your life at home? Because I know when I have a lot of experiences, I get all excited about it, and I pick up a little bit here and a little bit here, and I think, I'd really like to add this to my lifestyle, or I'd like to have
Mm.
this in my home, or I'd like to, incorporate the way that they live this way into my
Yes.
living. What's something that you pick up that's usually, or that you have in the past, that's fuel-free living for you?
So I think for me, well, one thing I would love to do, but we can't, are the siestas. Those would be amazing. Every day between, what is it, 12 and 2, take a nice little siesta. Unfortunately, we can't do that.
Well, I don't know. You're
Um,
kind of high up at cruise planners. Maybe you could work your magic.
might be frowned upon if I'm sleeping under my desk, but but I think along those same lines in Europe, just their way of living and their feeling of life is very different than what we have here in America. We're very go, go, go. We're very career driven, very busy. Whereas when you go to a lot of these European countries, they're much more laid back. It's much more about family and having, friend time, family time, and work is important. Don't get me wrong. Uh, but it's not the priority where I feel like here we tend to make it the priority. And I do try to think of that and remember that not everybody in the world has to be go, go, go all the time. And so that's one thing I do bring back. I also love to bring back artwork. I try not to bring too much back because how big is your house? How many pieces of art can you have? But if there is something that really resonates with me, then I'll buy it and then ship it back home. Wines are something really exciting too, trying different wines in all these different regions, something that you would have never tried before. I'm
Yeah.
always asking to take a picture of the label so that when I get home, if I really loved it, I can go on to wine.com and see if they have it, and I can usually get it. So those are the things that I really do try to bring back with me is their way of life, what they prioritize, and obviously food and art and culture.
That's awesome. And I love that you try to incorporate it, into your life and kind of continue that immersion from another place and bring it into
Mhm.
yours. That's awesome. I think
Yeah.
that that's one of the things that really surprised me when I started traveling, even just outside of my Northeast Ohio and Kentucky roots. I learned pretty quickly, even just going out west or even to Florida, that people move so much
So
slower
different.
than
Yeah.
me, and they're so much more interested in, like you said, family life and downtime. But that is definitely
Mhm.
prominent in foreign countries. So I can honestly say, though, during the pandemic, that is one thing that just really resonated with me was
Mhm.
that I try to never forget was how important it was that we were all here together. We couldn't go anywhere, and how
Yeah.
important it was to spend time together and take time out of each day to have a meal or play a game or just get to know my children a little bit better before they all get up and go. So,
Mhm.
what did you
Yes.
enjoy, if anything, about being home during the pandemic?
I think the same thing. I think it just all taught us to slow down. Um, and wow, first of all, be incredibly thankful for everything that you have, for our health, when a lot of people were not, doing so well with the virus, it kind of really made you very thankful for what you do have. Um, I really loved my home and I got into planting. I started planting a bunch of things. I never did the bread or the sourdough. My daughter and I did bake a lot together because she does love to bake. So we were able to kind of do some fun recipes and kind of try something new. They didn't always come out great, but I loved encouraging her to go with her passion as well because they were bored.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, we played board games, but again, I think just that family connection and just again being very thankful. It really was a time where you have to take a step back and go, okay, wow, life can change on a dime. And it did. Life changed on a dime. And, so gratefulness, I think, is just what I get out of it and the closeness with my family. Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. So Theresa, I really appreciate your time. I know you have a really busy schedule and I'll let you get off here, but I do have one more question for you before we go. So what is one thing that you think positively influences your life, like something that rings in your mind every day that you try to remind yourself that keeps you living as positively as you do?
Again, I just think I always want to count my blessings. I always want to just know that I'm very lucky, in my life. And I think it's just, you just have to be thankful for what you have. And believe me, there are bad days, there are bad moments. There are things that, you hope you never have to live through again. But, you just have to kind of you just have to stay positive and know that people care about you, people love you. And it's every day is going to get better and you'll get through it no matter what it is, that no matter what that dark tunnel is, there is a light and you will get through it.
Well, as our mutual friend Vicky says, just keep swimming.
Just keep swimming. Exactly.
It was great to get to know you today. I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
your time and your candidness, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your summer. Do you have any big plans coming up?
Well, actually, yeah, in a couple of weeks, we're going up into Tennessee. We rented a lake house, because at the time we weren't really sure what was happening with cruises. We love cruising, and we have something planned for later. But we're just looking forward to kind of just going up and being on a lake up in Tennessee and fishing, boating, all that fun stuff.
Wonderful. That sounds good. Well, thanks so much for getting together with us. I appreciate your time. It was good to talk to you again, and I hope we can get together again soon.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.